Hello world is a song that we sing.
Welcome to the Pop Culture Preservation Society, the podcast for people born in the big wheel generation who collected autographs, but not of famous people.
We believe our Gen X childhoods gave us unforgettable songs, stories, characters, and images. And if we don't talk about them, they'll disappear, like Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition.
And today, we'll be saving the records our parents bought after seeing Barbra Streisand, or Zero Mostel, or Marvin Hamlish on the Johnny Carson Show. Today, we'll be talking about the Broadway musicals our parents listened to on the hi-fi stereo system in the living room.
I'm Carolyn.
I'm Kristen.
And I'm Fanny Bryce. And I'm Michelle. And we are your pop culture preservationists.
Dun, 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 dun. We were just saying, oh my God, every little step she takes, one, two, thrilling combination, every move that she makes, dun, 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 dun. One smile. See, we can't stop. We can't. I'm just thinking, we're doing the whole song.
But I can't do it without going, and nobody else
can do.
Of course you guys would be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the producer person down, like smoking a cigarette, telling you, or the choreographer, like...
You're the Michael Douglas character in the movie. It was the most thrilling thing in the world when Emily was in a chorus line in high school, and they learned the choreo to one. I was like, you teach that to me immediately.
Okay. Pull myself together. Stop singing and pull myself together. Today's episode is a little bit different. Normally we're talking about all the things that we had as children. Our records, our books, the TV shows we loved to watch, possibly while our parents were still at work or making dinner or smoking Virginia Slims while they watered the lawn. It's always about us, right? But the things our parents liked were also a big part of our growing up because we only had one TV and we may have only had one stereo system in our house. But even if you had your own radio and your own turntable in your room, your parents didn't. Their turntable was in the living room, and whatever they were listening to, you were listening to too. And in my house, a huge percentage of my parents' records were Broadway musicals.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, you guys. And for that... Yes, you guys. And that means for me, I was singing along with Vicky Carr and Robert Goulet and Barbra Streisand, Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet, Frank Sinatra, and the Clancy Brothers. Okay, that was a little Irish
Clancy
band.
Brothers.
And
I remember them.
Picture the covers of all of these albums. And the Clancy Brothers were in their like Irish fisherman sweaters, and it looked like they could be doing an ad for Irish Spring soap.
Yeah.
And their instruments. And so those songs are really, again, we talk about being a part of our cellular structure because they were the things that were playing. And I just had the opportunity to sit and look at those covers while those, albums were playing.
Yes.
And I knew they made my parents happy. So it was kind of always a happy time.
Yeah.
And it was not something that you chose. You didn't put on the Clancy Brothers. Your mom did. And then you looked at the record cover and enjoyed it. It was like they were providing us with this gift that they didn't even know. For me, that was The Seekers and Georgie Girl. That was my mom's album. But I sat there and I looked at that album cover all day long. But also, a huge percentage of my parents' records were Broadway musicals. Huge percentage.
Oh, yeah. We had a lot of musical albums, too. And I think I've told you guys before that my mom was a really, really beautiful singer. Fun fact, singing was her talent when she was a contestant in the Miss Grand Prairie pageant in the early 60s. Yeah. But she'd sing loudly and with just great passion to not just the musical soundtracks, but mostly and especially Barbra. But it was my mom who introduced me to my love of musicals. And I'm quite sure it was from a very early age, just by the absorption into my soul from listening to all those soundtracks.
I want to really hold on to that community aspect of music because I don't think there's anything more communal than a musical. And I think it's so interesting that Broadway is a particular place, right? These shows were being performed in a particular place. And some of them were turned into movies, and that's how we got to know some of them. But a lot of them were not. And yet still, our parents had these albums. Broadway was not in Minnesota. It was not in Texas. And it wasn't in Washington. But still our parents knew and loved the latest Broadway craze. Even if they loved it so much that they would spend their hard-earned money to buy the cast recording of the album. I can't believe I don't remember this, but how did we get to know about the music coming out of Broadway in the pre-digital era?
Well, I think, some shows probably like Ed Sullivan and shows that really, like, what do I want to say?
Showcased.
Yes, that word. The shows that showcased artists were
Merv
one way.
Griffin.
Yes, and then
All the
those
talk
kind of talk shows. Mike Douglas, those kind of things. I think that was some exposure. I think there might have been some in like some print media. I know I've talked a few times about those Saturday and Sunday inserts in the newspapers, and I feel like a lot of those might have talked about the latest craze on Broadway. A chorus line is here.
Yep.
Or
And a lot of these soundtracks had songs that charted on the radio.
That's true, yeah.
They'd
They'd be playing on the
they
radio.
would maybe hear one song that's a beautiful song, and then they would go get the album from that.
I totally forgot about the talk show piece of it. That is huge. That's huge, especially if it included somebody that they already knew and loved, like a Barbara Streisand or a Julie Andrews or somebody like that. And then they'd go and buy the cast recording without ever having seen the show. And then, of course, if you were lucky enough, you would get touring productions coming through your town. And one thing is for sure, this became so apparent to me while I was researching for this episode this week. Broadway musicals played in our homes trigger a lot of feelings. So many feelings. Why does the music from these shows give me such a lump in my throat?
I know
Michelle's
for me,
raising- her
I know I'm
hand goes
raising
up in
my
the air.
hand just because that for me, it definitely hits differently now.
Yeah.
When I remember the albums that were in heavy rotation in my house, because for those of you listening that don't know, my mom passed away in the fall of 2024. And I can still hear her singing. I mean, I can hear it perfectly in my head. And when I hear her singing and walking around the house, cleaning the house or whatever, she's a much younger version of, she was 81, or she was 80 when she passed away. But she, in my memory, she's probably 40. Flipping around the house, just singing the top of her lungs. So the lump is especially large for me now when I'm thinking about these musicals. But to answer your question, generally, I think maybe it's because the songs, and listen, everyone, you have to play these songs in order.
Yeah, you
it's
do.
It's very important to preserve this like emotional ride you're going to be on, but it's because the songs tell a story, and it is often very much an emotional roller coaster of a story, a Broadway musical. So that could be one reason.
Yeah, you're right. When I was so frustrated this week while I was, I would oftentimes listen while I was dog walking and things like that. And so then I'm listening to Apple Music, and the songs would shuffle, or they would add in something new. They would give me a bonus track. It would be a cover by somebody else. I'm like, stop it. That is not why I'm here. And then I would have to go home, and thank God I have a turntable and I have records, so I could just put it on the turntable and listen to it the way that I did 50 years ago.
And you got to start with the overture, everyone. Do
Yes.
not skip
Yes.
past the overture. Even
I
if you're
cry
like,
at the
I
overture.
got to get to the lyrics. Oh, I got to get to my favorite.
No.
Shame on you.
Yes.
That's right, because all of those are in the overture. Like you'll hear those tunes, and you get all excited.
Oh, the medley. Yes, I love the overture. Plus, the overture is what gives me all the nipple lightning.
Yes, totally. This is why when I go to a show, the overture begins, and that's when I begin to cry.
Oh my
I
God.
begin to cry before the actors are even on the stage. It is so full and voluminous. Maybe that's what it is that I'm being enveloped by music in a way that I'm not with what I'm hearing on the radio. It's so heavy and textured and dramatic. Maybe it's the drama of it all too. There's so much earnestness, which is funny. This is why Liam does not like musicals, except for Sound of Music. Thank God he likes Sound of Music. It's the earnestness of it all is very uncomfortable for him. And I think the earnestness is what makes me cry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure. And on an aside, I love the word earnest and earnestness, and Kristen says it all the time.
All the time.
I feel like that should be a drinking game.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking somebody would have just had to drink like 6 times in a row right, in this sentence right before this, or the couple of sentences. But I agree with you, and I agree with what you said about being enveloped. I think that's a great word for what it feels like. You're kind of in it. It's around you, kind of part of it in a way that you're more of an observer in other kinds of music where you're on the outside taking it in. But I feel like these Broadway songs, you are in it.
You're in it, and then like you said earlier, it's the massiveness of it all, the orchestra, so all those instruments coming together. And when I go see a musical, and I'm a huge fan of seeing musicals, but I'm a little bit picky. I want, and you'll hear my musical choices today represent this, but I want a big, old-fashioned, big, massive number somewhere in my musical, right? So I need something that is, the music is swelling and the vocal is swelling, whether it's a solo or everyone together. And I mean, I just about come out of my skin, right? So those are the feelings too. It's one part, the feelings that we now have, because we're also remembering a lot of memories of our parents are playing into our memories. But if you throw us back to when we were children and are like, how did we have those big feelings then? I think it's just because we're the type of people, and many of our listeners as well, who this type of all of it coming together, right? The vocals, the music, we feel it, and it's big feelings, it's big music, it's big, and there's some people that just aren't, and that's okay. I mean, I feel sorry that you have to live your life without having those big feelings, but you do. They've got something else.
That is very true. There are some people who are very emotionally impacted by listening to music, and there are some people for whom it's just entertainment. And I think the three of us are people who cry when we listen to music. So this is going to be a very emotional episode.
It's been a very emotional, like 3 days for me.
Yeah, it really has. Unexpectedly so. Before we begin, we just have to recognize that the Broadway musicals that we know are a distinctly American thing. There is no Broadway equivalent in France, right? we have the West End in London, but that is renowned for theater, which is not the same as musicals. It's not the same as a Broadway musical. They certainly produce Broadway musicals, but they are borrowing from Broadway. It's the closest thing. London's West End is the closest thing that we have to Broadway. This belongs to us, and we should be really proud of that. And in the 60s and the 70s, stage productions were changing. We'll talk about some of their very traditional Broadway fare today, but we'll also talk about some that had a distinctly different flavor from the lighthearted musical comedies or sentimental love stories set in small towns, possibly with a cornfield or a Ferris wheel, that we were used to seeing and that our parents were used to seeing when they were growing up. In the 70s, we see things get very real. Musicals are asking us to think instead of just sitting back and being entertained. We see the introduction of the rock opera, starting with Hair in 1968, which some people say is a rock musical and not a rock opera, but whatever. Something new was in town. And then musicals start weaving in the 70s pop sensibilities into the songs, so it sounds more like the songs that you hear on the radio. In 1969, The Fifth Dimension had a 6-week run at #1 with, do you know what song? You guys know what song, right?
I think it has to be This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes, it was their cover of the medley of songs from Hair, Aquarius, and Let the Sunshine In. It was one of the biggest songs of 1969. This is what musical theater is coming to us in the 70s. And when Andrew Lloyd Webber debuts on Broadway in 1971, like a new era has officially begun, right? And we're going to talk about it all today, all of it, by highlighting some of those records that filled our houses with music. So let's just start one by one. Carolyn, do you want to start with one of the records that was in your house?
I would be happy to. Okay. So I am going to start with the Broadway musical West Side Story. That album was definitely in our home, and again, it's the album cover I remember so specifically. It is... Actually, the soundtrack is not from the original Broadway production. It is from the film, and that's what my parents saw. So it has Natalie Wood, who played Maria, and the other guy, I don't know his name, that played Tony. And they're sitting on a fire escape. And I remember my mom explaining to me what a fire escape was. Like, I think that was my first introduction to what are these outside stairs on side of a brick building and what's going on here. So again, it was the album cover. And then my parents, I think because of the whole New York City connection, they could have been in the Jets and whatever. And they would sing the songs and they would get into like the actions that would have been in the movie. Like I could see my dad doing the snapping thing. I'm snapping right now. So if you, yes. I'll tell you a few facts about West Side Story. Okay. It actually opened in 1957, the original Broadway production It originally opened on September 26th, 1957 at the Winter Garden Theater in New York City. And we have the music, in this case, is by Leonard Bernstein, and the lyrics by Stephen Sondheim. The storyline is inspired by Romeo and Juliet, and as I've already mentioned, it's set in New York City during the 1950s, and rival gangs, the Jets, who were the white Americans, and the Sharks, the Puerto Ricans, are kind of these enemy gangs. And so we're following along the story, which, come to think of it now as I'm actually talking out loud, it's very pertinent today, too. I think there are a lot of things we can learn from the musical West Side Story. The musical is really known for this integration of music, dance, and the narrative. Do you guys remember some of the songs that are from?
Immediately, whenever I think of West Side Story, I think of Tonight.
Loved it.
Like,
And
you
I
have
think
to
of-
sing it like that.
Well, and I think of my mom singing it like that. And my mom, I think
That's such a
I've
mom
mentioned
song.
before, she just idolized many people, but Natalie Wood as well. And so she loved it. But when I was a sophomore in high school, I was in dance in high school. We got to take dance as one of our like physical education electives. And we did our dance to When You're a Jet, You're a Jet, all the way from your
Dad
first
loved that.
cigarette to your last dying day. And I was singing. This is like goes back to what we were just talking about, how some people grew up with musicals and some people not. And right when she started playing it, I'm singing the whole song, and we all like walked forward. And I remember we'd go, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm doing that. We'd say, from your first cigarette to your last dying day, and would like throw the cigarette. But I had people in my dance class going, how do you know these words? Like, you're just hearing it for the first time. And I said, because I grew up with this album playing in my house.
Yes, my dad would sing that entire song, and I remember being so impressed with how he knew all the words. Like, it didn't even have to be playing. Like, these were songs that my parents would be like, I want to live in a mess. So Natalie Wood, we said, starred in West Side Story, but she did not sing all the songs.
I have the answer.
I know you probably do. So, Kristen, I'm going to ask you, whose voice was dubbed in for Natalie Wood?
That would be Marnie Nixon.
Marnie Nixon is correct.
We talked about it on a previous episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did, and she has a very famous offspring. That's how we almost brought it up. I think.
Oh my god!
Cynthia.
Oh my god! Who is it?
Is it Cynthia?
It is.
No,
That's not it. What? Who is it?
It's
John
not
Sebastian.
Close. It's closer to John Sebastian than it is to
Garth
Cynthia.
Williams. Vivian Vance.
These are not related.
It is Andrew Gold.
Richard. Oh.
Andrew Gold, our lonely boy, and our friend.
That's right. That's right. God, you guys, we've been doing this now for so long that I'm forgetting. Now I'm getting Hoosker Dude
By my
by
own
things
information.
by things we talked about.
I'm told because I'm like I'm as excited right now as the first time you told us. It's like you've never told us before, which means that Marnie Nixon brought home the little sister when Andrew Gold said, "But you said I'd be the only one."
Right, because that is based on a true story. That
Yes.
song. So just think, Andrew Gold probably got to hear these songs. Because I'm not, well, never mind. We won't say that.
And Marnie Nixon was one of the nuns in Sound of Music.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Oh my God, the fun facts
Well,
just
she
keep
was
layering.
also, her voice was dubbed in for Deborah Carr in The King and I, and Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady.
I did not know that. Okay, and that poor woman, I hope she got paid a lot of money.
Yes,
Because
and
I don't think she got,
she did other performances under her own name. So
Okay.
it's not like she was this ghostwriter that no one ever knew, and she never got credit for the
But it's not like
music.
her name is splashed on the
No, it's
album
not.
cover because they want you to think it's Natalie Wood. So it's
Right.
like in the fine print on the back of the album
Yes,
cover.
and I think I have like a kind of of an icky feeling I get when I learned that it wasn't Natalie Wood singing. Because, of course, I'm staring at that album cover that I talked about, and you see her face, and she's so beautiful. And I probably caught snippets of the movie if it was ever on TV and my parents were watching it, and I knew who Natalie Wood was. And then I thought, well, that's not fair. Like, how can she be the star and someone else is singing? That's cheating, basically.
At the same time, think of this sounds so weird, but it is a gift nonetheless. How talented are you, Natalie Wood, if you can portray singing? She's portraying singing. And somebody else's voice. Like, is she lip syncing? I don't know, but I believed it. It looked good to me.
Oh, I did too. Hence why I was so disappointed when I found out it wasn't her.
I also think about those dance sequences. Those are so memorable, and that's exactly the kind of thing that you would see on Johnny Carson. They would take a whole dance sequence from a Broadway musical and showcase it for us, the American public, on late night TV. And you can that's why we all know the snaps. Everybody knows the snaps. Whether you've seen the movie or the show, it doesn't matter. Jerome Robbins was the choreographer. He's, of course, probably one of the most well-known choreographers in history. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't know. And please don't Google this, but I do believe that the choreography from West Side Story was the first choreography to be copyrighted.
Oh, I feel like I've heard that too.
I do believe.
Wow. I've never thought about choreography being copywritten. Wow. That's
And they're
really
it's a very particular way of notation because it's on paper. It's not on film. I mean, yes, it is on film. It's preserved
what
on
I'm
film.
learning, of course,
yes,
from my
it's all
dancing
preserved on
women.
paper. And I know that Jerome Robbins had a special way of notating it, and that's all preserved in his archives. So when you want to do that choreography, you have to get permission from the Jerome Robbins estate.
Wow. Learn something new every day.
Yeah, it's that important. It is iconic choreography. Everybody knows it.
Well, my first one is, it's pretty obvious. But my first pick is Funny Girl. So the Funny Girl cast album peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200 in June 1964. And it had sold 250,000 copies by the following month.
Oh my
now,
God.
the recording went on to beat Fiddler on the Roof and Hello Dolly to win the Grammy for Best Original Cast Show Album.
Wow.
And that's the one that I have here. It's upside down because she's upside down on it. This
oh my
is
God,
my
I have
mom's.
such memories of that. That is
Yep.
so
Yes.
iconic.
Yes, I
This
think
is from
that's
my
one in our
mom's.
house.
Yes.
I brought like 28 Barbara records home with me when we cleaned out her place, and has the
angels are singing.
gatefold. Yeah.
Because it is a what?
Well-
What is it again, Michelle?
Is it what?
What kind of album is it again?
Oh, it's like it opens like a gatefold.
Gatefold.
It's a
It's a
gatefold.
gatefold.
I mean, I love gatefolds.
Carolyn
Just
loves her
opens,
gatefolds.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And so-
all of those albums, those soundtracks from those Broadway shows were gatefolds. Perhaps that's why I love
so
them
much
so much.
information
So
in
many
them.
pictures and and
That's
then
why
our
we
house.
spent so much time with them.
Yes.
Michelle,
Well-
you need to take that art from that album cover and put it on your wall.
Yeah, it's so
so
good.
beautiful.
The upside down with the Well, in our house, my entire life, there was a Barbara album playing about 90% of the time. But here's the thing: my memories of Funny Girl, the Funny Girl soundtrack, aren't as much from hearing my mom play it or even sing the songs. It's me. It's all me.
Oh.
And I mean, obviously, she played it a lot, or I'd have never known and loved the songs. It's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? But I was a bit obsessed with this soundtrack from about first grade to fourth grade. And I hadn't seen the musical, but the inside of the album, when it opens, tells the whole story. And those pictures, I would just study those pictures and I would read about the story. And of course, my mom would tell me the story because this was based on the movie. I would spend hours and hours, you guys, singing all the songs, acting them out. I mean, God bless life pre-internet. Right? So that we have memories like this,
Yes.
like things we
Agreed.
did as children. And I really latched on to I'm the Greatest Star. So much so that I believe it was in third grade, because I can remember the street I lived on, where we had a little neighborhood talent show. We sold tickets to all our neighbors. And I performed I'm the Greatest Star. I performed Secondhand Rose, and along with my magic act, naturally.
Naturally, yeah.
Remember, I
Of
was
course.
I was an amateur magician. But I remember nailing the New York accent. Like I'd say, listen, I got 36 expressions, sweet as pie to tough as leather. And then I would do the whole like, and can't you see to look at me that I'm a natural Camille? And then my second favorite song to sing, which is actually not on this soundtrack, I'm going to tell you a fun fact about it in a minute, was Secondhand Rose. And that's definitely my other favorite Barbara song to perform, because I love the whole like, even Jake the plumber, he's the man I adore. He had the nerve to tell me he's been married before. Everyone knows that. Anyway, I remember my mom getting such a kick at this little talent show that I was like, everybody was coming out twirling the baton or doing cartwheels, and I was singing Barbra Streisand. She was very proud. So Secondhand Rose is not included on this 1964 Broadway soundtrack, but Barbra Streisand sang it in her 1965 TV special called
There we go.
My Name is Barbara.
Yep.
So it was on one of the two companion albums from that special. And then she went on to include the song in the 1968 movie. And you guys, I listened to the soundtrack in its entirety yesterday. And it's the first Barbara I've been able to listen to since my mom died in September. And had a real good cry. And it was like no time had passed, though. I mean, the song, I'm the Greatest Star, it has a lot of lyrics. And every single one of them just rolled out of some weird crevice in my brain.
God.
And I was just singing along. And then when I heard Jean Stapleton, who played Mrs. Strakosch, sing, If a girl isn't pretty like a Miss Atlantic City, you know, my head, I think,
That was
exploded.
very good. That was a very good Jean Stapleton.
I had not thought of that song in her voice in decades, and then People came on, and that's when I just lost it. You guys, I was typing notes for this episode, and when People came on, I'm not exaggerating. I could smell my mom as I listened to that song. God. And you guys, it's like this is the power of music and the beauty of music. It is truly like my mom is contained in all Barbara songs, probably, but a handful. And it's why I haven't been able to really listen to them.
Yeah.
But I could smell, and like I said, not 80-year-old mom.
That's a different smell.
Didn't want to smell her. No, but you know how your mom always had. For my mom, it was Oscar de la Renta perfume. It was just her house, her clothes had a certain smell. And as I was listening to People, I had to stop typing. I had to just let myself feel. I had to cry. I had to have all of the senses. And I was really happy to have had that opportunity. Carolyn, you talk about that a lot, the gifts that this podcast gives us. I wouldn't have listened to that because I would have been like, nope, I'm still, you guys, I live very well in my denial and unacceptance of my mom having died. And so I've just been pushing shit like that away, like Barbara songs, Barbara albums. And so I was I had to for this episode. And I was really ultimately grateful.
Oh,
that's beautiful.
That is very beautiful.
It is. It's just, it's what we always talk about, that these things can transport us. And what you had there was a transporting experience, literally. You were literally transported basically to a different dimension because your mom doesn't live in this dimension. That's amazing. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with the 70th of any show ever produced in history, in my humble opinion. And that is what was our very first taste of Andrew Lloyd Webber in his first ever production for Broadway in 1970. And that is Jesus Christ Superstar. Known to theater kids worldwide as Superstar. Jesus Christ Superstar Superstar, the biblical story of the clash between Jesus and Judas, and how Judas doesn't like this new direction that Jesus is going in, and it lets you into the psychology of all of the characters in the story of Jesus's death and resurrection, which the Bible doesn't really do so much. So it's a bit of speculation. And it's also super controversial, both from the Bible purists and also because there is some anti-Semitism and how those various roles are portrayed. This production was pushing buttons all over the place. And it is bonkers. This show is bonkers. If you want to feel the 70s, watch the 1973 movie version directed by Norman Jewison and filmed in Israel. I made my husband watch it recently, and he was like, what is even happening right now? So just picture this. This is how the movie opens. So, you picture opening your Bibles to read about Jesus, and what you see on the screen is a school bus full of disciples. They're like on their way to school, and they're all getting off at their stop, which is in the middle of the desert. Like, really lost it when the disciples start singing this song out in the desert. Do you know this song? What's the buzz? Tell me what is happening. What's the buzz? Tell me what is happening. What's the buzz? Tell me what is happening. And Jesus,
So 70s.
It's so 70s in all of their like desert garb and everything. And Mike is like he's gonna walk out. I'm like, no, stay, please stay.
I can't believe he didn't ever see that in school. Like, I remember watching, because I know Mike went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
And we watched it always like around Lent.
Oh,
in high
did you
school.
really?
Yeah, that and Godspell.
It's so bonkers. It is so bonkers.
Is.
And strangely enough, the album, Jesus Christ Superstar, came before the show.
Oh.
This is a really
we did have the
strange
album.
chicken or egg situation. No one wanted to stage this production because it's bonkers. So they made, Andrew Lloyd Webber et al., they made a weird, wacky concept album instead. They're like, screw them. We're not going to do a show. We're just going to do this album, Jesus Christ Superstar. And it was a hit, a huge hit. The album reached #1 with no show. And the stage show, then they're like, oh, okay, we'll do a stage show. And they quickly bankrolled the show, and they debuted it in 1971. So album 1970, it charted in 1971. Here comes the show in 1971. And then the movie comes in 1973. The album also released several chart hits, including Superstar, Jesus Christ, Superstar. This is the song that I fell in love with when I was a kid.
What's the next
Same,
line?
same.
What's that next
Oh,
line?
this is
Who
okay.
in the world do you think
No,
you
I was
are?
like, who in the hell?
That's what
Who
I
in the
said.
hell do you think you are?
are?
Which I was like, you should not talk that way to Jesus.
Is that really what the words are?
No, it's not even close.
I remember thinking that I was getting away with stuff. Like I knew those weren't the words, but I'm saying them anyway.
Isn't that
Who in the
funny?
hell? Yes.
Okay, so we both thought that. And
Yes.
I sang it all the time. No, though I was just listening to it. Those words are not in the song.
What are they?
It's just so 70s. Who in the hell do you think you are, Jesus? Even though that's not what they say.
Even though, yeah.
But that's kind of what the movie is about. This song sounded like the way I wanted my life to be. Picture the kids dancing on Electric Company. That's what kind of music this is with your Bibles. And I always thought, like you said, I always thought they were saying, who the hell do you think you are? Not a nice thing to say to Jesus. And there's also another one of the hits that came from this album is this very familiar tune, which was also a chart topper, sung very famously by Mary Magdalene about Jesus, which is, I don't know how to love him. But you all thought it was Helen Reddy singing about her amazing boyfriend, but no, it was Mary Magdalene singing about Jesus. Actually, Helen Reddy was never in the stage production of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Really?
No, she's not Mary Magdalene. I just made these vast assumptions that she was Mary Magdalene. But she just recorded her own version of the song in 1971. And it totally launched her career. A string of Helen Reddy hits came after that one. That was the song that gave us Helen Reddy. The person who did sing that song as Mary Magdalene in both the original Broadway production and in the movie was Yvonne Elliman, who also gave us, do you know what song she gave us?
Yeah, it's some. Yeah, you do. It's
you do.
Grease. I mean, not Grease. Saturday Night
If I
Fever.
can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you, that is
Very
Yvonne
Bee Gees
Elliman.
sounding.
So it's like Mary Magdalene was in Saturday Night Fever. It's the same, right?
Naturally. Yeah.
Naturally. That's a
In the
very good
70s,
period.
anything is possible.
Anything goes in the 70s. So for me, Mary Magdalene really is the most important role, and there are some amazing people who have played her in the past. So, starting with, of course, Yvonne Elliman, If I Can't Have You. In the Swedish production of Superstar in 1972 was a young blonde woman named Agneta Falskog. Does that sound familiar to you?
ABBA.
Yes.
No.
Oh, it is. It is.
It's the only Swedish thing I know.
It's the only Swede we know. She's the blonde from ABBA. She was Mary Magdalene.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Fun fact.
And then in 1992, in the revival of Jesus Christ Superstar, this is fantastic casting. Irene Cara.
That is.
It was kind of weird. But here's the best casting nugget I've got for you. This is so good. And I never knew this until I watched it recently. I really love to read credits. It drives people crazy. But I do not leave the movie theater until I've read every word as fast as I can. I'm the last one in the movie theater constantly. And the same goes when I'm watching movies at home. You gotta let the credits play because I am busy reading. And after 31 years, Mike finally has figured this out. So we're sitting there watching the credits of Jesus Christ Superstar, and I catch a name really quickly. I'm like, oh, rewind. I see a name that I recognize, and I see this name, and I'm like, no, it cannot be the same. It can't be the same. But I did a little Googling, and it is the same. I'm going to say this name to you, and you tell me who this person is. Darcel Leonard Wynn.
Elton John.
Sorry.
Just kidding.
No. You're going to die.
Do they have another name that they go by? That
Yes.
We know them?
Sometimes they're simply known as Darcel.
That doesn't help.
Michelle and I are just like, doesn't help.
All right, I'm
Okay.
going to tell you.
I'm thinking somebody from Electric Company or
Nope.
I was
Zoom.
thinking someone
Okay.
Sesame Street, and then I was
Nope.
like, "No, we just did read. I just
Yeah.
re-listened to those Sesame Street
Okay,
episodes, and that's not a
Darcel.
name."
Or maybe a Solid Gold Dancer, but no, that
It's
was
a solid gold dancer.
That's what I was
It
thinking,
is. It's
too.
a solid gold dancer. Ding, 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 ding. You did it. Ding, 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 ding.
Is it a she?
Yes,
Is
Darcel
that-
is the one with the long braids.
I've communicated with Darcel.
Yes.
But when you said Leonard, I went to a guy in my head.
Nope.
So, yeah, Darcel. Hey.
Darcel was in Jesus Christ Superstar as woman.
As woman.
So I found the clip. You can see Darcel just shaking her groove thing in the desert.
But that's a name. That's a resume builder.
It sure
if you're
is.
listed, you get to put that on your resume.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, the second musical I want to talk about is one that I chose particularly for a moment and a memory that I have that's associated with my dad so deeply. I'm not even sure if I followed the rules in picking this musical, but I had to because it's such a distinct memory. Okay, with that being said, first let me give you a quick... Did I say what it was yet?
No.
Oh, okay. This would be the Rodgers and Hammerstein classic Carousel. Let me give you a little synopsis of the musical, okay? Carousel, 1956 was when the Broadway production debuted. It's a romantic musical drama set in the picturesque coastal town of Boothbay Harbor, Maine in 1873. And it tells the story of Billy Bigelow, a charming but troubled carnival barker, a quiet mill worker. Okay, whatever mill workers are. After a whirlwind romance and marriage, Billy struggles to provide for his family and makes a desperate choice that leads to tragedy. And from the afterlife, he is given a chance to return to Earth for one day to make things right, particularly for his daughter, whom he never knew. So that sets up what this musical is for you guys, okay? It was the second musical by Rodgers and Hammerstein, and it was a quick follow-up on their groundbreaking success, Oklahoma. Broadway production premiered on April 19th, 1945 at the Majestic Theater. So this particular Broadway musical really broke theater norms because it integrated these songs so deeply into the shows and really showed the character development as part of the song. That's what propelled the character and how you got to see them change and grow over time. It also included a nearly 12-minute bench scene, which was considered a milestone in music storytelling. I'm not sure what that bench scene is, but it is when they sing "If I Loved You," which is one of the most beautiful songs. So the signature songs, some you might remember from Carousel. "If I Loved You" is one. How about "June is busting out all over"? Oh, yeah. La, da, 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 da. Love that one. And then, of course, there is the iconic Anthem of Hope, "You'll Never Walk Alone." Yes, that one. Okay. Hold your breath a little bit.
There's
there.
a big moment. There's a big
It's
moment.
a huge moment. So, in 1956, the Broadway production was made into a musical. Also kind of hot off the Oklahoma musical film. Interestingly enough, Rodgers and Hammerstein initially, when Broadway productions were going to film, they didn't want any of theirs to do that. But they had a few kind of floppy productions on Broadway, and maybe the money wasn't rolling in as much as they wanted, so they decided to go ahead and let these musicals be made into motion pictures. Okay, so if you remember, we've got Gordon McRae as Billy Bigelow.
Oh my gosh.
He previously starred in Oklahoma, as did his beautiful co-star Shirley Jones. She's Julie Jordan. It always struck me that it was the same couple. Like, it was hard for me to separate. Like, these are two totally different movies that are two totally different, like, time periods, and yet it's the guy and the girl from Oklahoma. Like, I think I always thought of them as the Oklahoma characters. Okay. So my interest, I guess, initially in this musical was piqued when I'd be watching the Jerry Lewis MDA telethon, and at the end of every Jerry Lewis telethon, if you remember, Jerry Lewis would sing When You Walk Through a Storm.
Yeah, I forgot.
And they would always, he and Ed McMahon would kind of have this bet as to whether or not he could get through it kind of without crying.
Yes.
And I always wanted him to cry. I'm like, is he crying yet? Is he crying yet?
Well, and besides, he's like so tired.
Oh, he's so
Yes.
tired. He's
So
got his
tired.
cigarette.
His tie's open. His
It's a
bow tie's
telethon.
open now.
Yes.
That's right.
We should do an episode sometimes that airs around
Oh, yeah, it was Labor Day. That's
Yeah,
right.
yes, I have a fond feeling in my heart for that. We've talked before about, like, I did the McDonald's
loved it,
Carnival.
yep.
I sent away for that.
We're going to do that. We have to do that.
Yes, it was just such a great memory. And then I remember my mom saying, oh, that song comes from a musical called Carousel, and your dad loves that musical. And when that song plays in that musical, your dad, the first time he saw the movie, your dad cried, like really cried. And so I was like, my dad cried and Jerry Lewis is crying? Like, what is so great about this song? And so one day, I must have been in high school. It was either 8th grade or high school because we lived in New Jersey. This movie must have been on like a Saturday afternoon, one of those like $1 million movie things. And my parents called me down. They're like, Carousel is on. You've got to watch it with us. And we watch it. And it is so sad. So the epic scene that we're talking about, it's the finale. And I don't want to give anything away. We'll include a link to that final scene in our show notes because honestly, in my opinion, you don't even need to see the whole movie to make you get teary seeing this. Basically, Billy Bigelow, who plays Shirley Jones's husband, doesn't know that he has a daughter. Okay, his daughter is born after he dies in this botched robbery attempt, kind of a thing. That's not important. Just know he's dead. He's not there. His daughter's graduating. Peter and the people up in heaven say, you can go down like one time and be there, but like as an angel, like one of those kind of like the littlest angel where he's there, but they don't know he's there. And so that's already heartbreaking. And the song is playing while that is happening. And so he's watching his daughter, and then he's like kneeling down next to Shirley Jones, who's sitting in a chair watching the graduation. And she's just looking up, you could just see her eyes, and he's right there. So that's really good acting that she wasn't like, you know what I'm saying? She's
Yes,
not reacting
for sure.
to him being right there. He's so close, and her eyes are filling up. And then everyone starts singing the song. So talk about like crescendo and all of that. So everybody that's at the graduation, and then he has to walk away. Then he walks to the beach, and he kind of turns back one last time, and that song is still playing. And then, of course, at this point, the crescendo is just out there. So I'm kind of crying when I'm watching the end of this movie in my little panel den. My dad is a little bit teary, and I remember so distinctly getting up from the floor, walking over to him. He's reclining in this like tweedy recliner rocker thing we had, which was very ugly. And I just hugged him so hard and just told him how much I loved him, because now I realized why he cried the first time he had seen it. It's this father who wasn't there to watch his daughter graduate. And then just this wave of emotion came over me, and I just held on to him so tightly, and I couldn't even really talk. So that is why I chose.
Well, get in your Surreys, farming, and travel through corn as high as what? An elephant's eye. Because we're going to talk about Oklahoma. So again, thank you to my mama for introducing me to this musical, which to this day is in my top 3, cringy parts and all. I'm holding my mom's original album. that, again, I spent hours, all these pictures. So the stage musical Oklahoma began on Broadway in 1943.
What?
It's crazy.
Whoa.
Oh,
yeah,
my
it
God.
premiered at the St. James Theater on March 31st, 1943. And as Carolyn just mentioned, it was written by Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II. And yes, there is an original cast album of that 1943 Broadway musical. It was released by Decca Records on December 1st, 1943. And as you would expect, it featured members of the original New York production. It was really groundbreaking because, get this, you guys, it's considered the first original cast album of a Broadway musical.
Okay, that came from someplace. Like we just think this has always been, but it had.
So like I just showed, we had the 1955 movie soundtrack, which
That's
you
what
guys
we had
say
too.
you did too. And of course, like we said, with the flawless Shirley Jones as Laurie and Gordon McRae as Curly. And that album charted #1 on the Billboard Pop Album Chart in 1956.
Wow.
And it's been in continual print since.
Wow.
They're still printing that sucker out.
That's amazing.
And let's
I believe Oklahoma was one of the first, if not the first, staged musical I ever saw.
Oh.
I saw it outside somewhere. I don't remember, but I fell in love with it. And to this day, if it's being performed somewhere, like even at like a community theater, I'll go see it. I love it. And mostly I think because of the memories I associate with it. And the movie as well, even with that intermission. I mean, the movie's like 3 hours long or something. Like I said earlier, my mom could sing, and she had a beautiful soprano. So as you might imagine, she loved to sing along with artists like Shirley Jones. And this soundtrack, you guys, come on, right?
I know.
It is so singable. And as a child, I just latched onto it hard. All of it. The stories, the costumes, the romance, the songs. So, yeah, as you might have guessed, I played Oklahoma endlessly if I wasn't playing Funny Girl, right?
Is it
all
where
by
you learned
myself.
what a surrey was?
Yeah.
I learned
Yeah.
the house. Do you know what a surrey
For
is?
sure, yeah. And the isinglass curtains that'll roll right down. I didn't understand that lyric, and my mom would tell me it's isinglass curtains that'll roll right down in case there's a change in the weather. But when I played it all by myself, and sometimes my sister was just reminding me last week that we did act these out together a lot. In my memory, I did it mostly alone because I had to be both Laurie, I had to be Ado Annie, because, I mean, come on, singing I Can't Say No is the most fun to act out. Then I was also Curly. I was Will, was singing about, Kansas City, and I was never Judd. Let me just go on record as saying I was never Judd. But I will say I loved singing both parts of, I loved singing Many a New Day, and in Many a New Day, I would be Laurie, but then I would be all the girls getting ready. Do you remember in the movie? They're all getting ready for the picnic, and they've all gone in to like get some air and brush their hair, and they're all in, in Laurie's little bedroom in their like corsets or their bra,
Yeah.
So I have a funny story though. So as much as I loved to perform as a child alone, and I was in dance and stuff like that, but I couldn't sing, and I still really can't sing. And I was very self-conscious of my singing voice, let's just say. But when I was a senior in high school, the high school musical was Oklahoma. And I was like out of my mind, like, this is it. This is so exciting. And my very close friend Lisa and I both danced together, and we would choreograph tap duets for the dance concerts and stuff like that. So she's like, "Come on, we have to audition." And I said, "Absolutely not," because I was too terrified to do the singing part of the audition. And Lisa did, and she got in, and she was just in the chorus, but in the part when Will sings the whole Kansas City song. She was one of the two, they have the two girls, and if you think of the movie, the two girls come up and dance, and they do a big tap number, and she was one of them. And it killed me because she just got to be, she didn't ever really have to sing by herself, but I think had I auditioned, because we had done tap duets and
You
stuff
would have been
before,
that person.
I would have probably been
You
the other
would have
person.
been the other person.
And so I went to every single performance, and I French braided her hair with little bows at the back for all of her performances. I was so proud of her and happy for her. But sitting there through all, 6 performances or 8 performances killed me, especially at the very end, because my favorite part of the big finale, which you guys, you know the whole thing, right? But my favorite part is when you're split into two vocal groups, and the one part, and they start very low, and they start going Oklahoma, 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 and then you get the we know we belong to the land, and the land and they're still going Oklahoma. They're like keeping the beat behind it, and they're like all bouncing like on their knees while they keep the beat behind it, and then they're all dancing when swirling. You talk about swishing your skirts.
No kidding.
They had petticoats at their costumes, and you guys, I'd sit in the audience every night and love it, but I would just be I was so regretful, right? And
sad.
now, but you know, that's 17-year-old Michelle. I was still way too self-conscious. I didn't want to put myself out there. I could have made it. Yay!
God, I love it. Okay, my next pick is Fiddler on the Roof, a.k.a. Fiddler. Again, for the theater kids, just Fiddler. They probably did Superstar before they did Fiddler. And when I was a kid, I never saw the 1971 movie or the stage show, but I knew all of the names of the characters because of my dad. Because I think every high school theater department did Fiddler. All of them did. And my dad was involved in a lot of those productions. So I knew Tevye and Golda and Huddle and Seidel and Model and Perchik and Laser Wolf and Fruma Sarah. I knew them all without ever having seen the show. And many of you listening probably performed Fiddler in high school. Everyone out there's like, I know Fiddler. I finally saw it when they did it at my high school, which was populated primarily by like super blonde Gentile Northern Europeans, which means that there was a lot of darkening of the eyebrows and darkening of the hair, which seems very inappropriate by today's standards. I'm not sure how they would handle it now. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But the original Broadway production of the show opened in 1964, and it was the first Broadway musical in history to surpass 3,000 performances. It was breaking new ground. So Fiddler tells the story of Tevye, a milkman, and his family in a Russian village around the year and or around 1905, as he tries to marry off his daughters in the midst of a tremendous amount of change. And he's grappling with how they can maintain their Jewish faith and their customs while his daughters are asking all sorts of questions like, should we marry for love, or do we marry the man that our father chooses for us? Do we have to do that? And all of this is just breaking Tevye's heart. And this is where we get one of the show's most memorable songs, which is Tradition!
Oh, yeah.
Tradition! Dun, 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 tradition! Fiddler is also where I first learned the concept of a matchmaker. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Right?
Na, na, na,
And I'm like, what are they talking about, this matchmaker? So Yenta is the village's matchmaker, and it's her job to help Tevye make good matches for his daughters. And I learned all about it from the iconic song Matchmaker, Matchmaker, sung by Tevye's 3 daughters as they dream about their future husbands. And Tevye is very fearful of losing his traditions. That's the whole theme of the show. He's fearful of losing his daughters. But there's also this constant fear of the pogroms that are happening in Russia. There's always the specter of Russian forces who could arrive and violently force them from their villages at any moment at the drop of a hat. And that's the thread that runs through some of the darker and more brooding songs. They are always in danger. And because of this, because of the reality that they inserted into this story, Fiddler has become known as, quote, I'm quoting here, one of the first popular post-Holocaust depictions of the vanished world of Eastern European Jewry. Something to think about today, right? As conflicts around the world and as anti-Semitism is growing, as it's on the rise, it's just something for us to think about. And it makes me think, like so many things today, we watched this in high school and thought of it as something from the past that could never happen again. This is never going to happen again. And sadly, that isn't true at all, as we all know from world events. So back in 1964, investors were really worried that Fiddler on the Roof might be considered, again I'm quoting, too Jewish, and it wouldn't attract mainstream audiences. They could not have been more wrong. It was an instant success. It won 5 Tonys. It became one of the most popular musicals ever to be performed by blonde children in suburban high schools around the nation. It's probably second only to Sound of Music. And in 2020, the cast recording was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the National Recording Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And I have to agree.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's so interesting when you were telling us the storyline. It's like, oh, okay. Like, am I going to want to go see a play about that?
It's dark.
You can take a storyline like that is super important to know. Let's face it, it's important to know this history and what these people were feeling, and to be able to send that message through music and make it so entertaining in quotation marks, because like you said, some of this is dark, but tell the story that way that people are so engaged and they're crying along with the characters and they're so into the story that if you just read it on a page, kind of like you did, you'd be like, okay, maybe I'll go see something else.
You're going to bring me to tears. That is the reason musical theater exists. You just described that's the whole reason we need musical theater. It's the reason for being, because it's not just entertainment. It's more than entertainment. It can deliver so much in the form of an emotional package, and it makes us that much more empathic. It's really important. So let's talk about that music, because I think this is the reason that it attracted a mainstream audience. It was because the music was so compelling. It was dark and brooding, but it was also ecstatic and celebratory. And much of the music from Fiddler is so full of movement. You can, if you're just listening to it, you can feel people flying across the stage. You can visualize the people flying across the stage. And there is a lot of choreography, and there are a lot of people flying across the stage. But possibly the most well-known and beloved song from Fiddler on the Roof was the one that at least half of you out there had at your weddings.
Yeah.
Is this the little girl I carried? Carolyn's raising her hand.
Yes,
is this the
was
little
my
boy at
father-daughter
play?
dance. Yep.
I don't remember growing old.
My dad loved to dance too, and so we used to waltz and all that from when we were teeny tiny. We'd put our feet on his feet, and he'd take us around. So it was very proper, like form. I was so nervous. That might have been the most nervous in some ways I was the whole wedding day.
Like, I wonder if that was difficult for him, if he was listening to the words or not. I know it can't. I mean, I've witnessed several where the dads just blubber openly, just fall apart.
Yeah.
I would love to hear from listeners. If you danced with your father to Sunrise, Sunset, we want to hear from you. Was it emotional? Did anybody fall apart? Yes, Carolyn, I'm calling on you.
I do believe I might have some video.
Oh, I want to see this.
Okay.
Let's put it in
I
the
will
weekly
look for
reader.
that.
If you have it, we've got to throw it on the YouTube channel, and then I can put it in the weekly reader.
Okay. Sunrise,
Perfect.
Sunset has been described as, this is another quote, but I just think it's so perfect, a heartbreaking parental cry to slow down the years to keep their children young. Wasn't it just yesterday when they were small? And it makes everyone cry, like cry. But here's what I love. I love to see who played these roles on Broadway, because sometimes it's very unexpected people. Here are some fun casting tidbits. First, on my record, on our cast recording, Tevye was played by Zero Mostel. And I just always stared at that name. I just thought it was so funny that someone was named Zero. I was like, is that his name?
Yeah.
Is that the character's name, or is that his
Really
real
setting
name?
you up for success.
I know. It's not good. But this one is the best. This is the best. The actor who originated the role of Perchik the Revolutionary, the man who Huddle would marry for love, so Perchik and Huddle get married for love, but Tevye did not choose Perchik the Revolutionary because he was revolutionary. The man who originated that role on Broadway was, I'm not even going to ask you to guess, because you'll never get it. You'll never get it. It was Bert Convy. And when you listen to the song, you're like, oh, I hear Bert Convy.
I'm dumbfounded.
That's the best. That's going to win the day right there. That's going to win the day.
Yeah,
In the
that is.
movie, Perchik is played by Starsky. I can't remember what Starsky's name is. And he had the same dark curly hair.
Yes.
You remember, what is Starsky's
It's
name?
David Soul and
Paul
Michael
Glaser.
Glaser.
Paul
Yes.
Michael
Yeah.
Glaser. Yeah, so he plays the revolutionary, Perchik the Revolutionary, in the movie. Here's another good one. It's not as good as Bert Convy, but this is also a good one. In the original Broadway cast, so this is the voice that you hear on the original cast recording, the person who originated the role of Yenta, the matchmaker, was a stage actress who went by the name of Beatrice
Bernadette
Arthur.
Peters. Oh, sorry. Who?
Beatrice Arthur.
Oh.
Yes, B. Arthur was once known
What
as
year
Beatrice
was this
Arthur.
again?
1964.
Okay, so yeah.
So she, it turns out that Norman Lear plucked a lot of people from the stage to populate his sitcoms in the 70s. And I didn't even know. Maude was the first TV role that B. Arthur ever played. She was a stage actress.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea. And here's just a smattering of fun people who have been in the revivals of Fiddler on the Roof. The actor, let's see, Bette Midler played Tzeitel. Adrienne Barbeau played Huddle, which is funny because then her mother Maude
I was
is
about to say
Yenta.
the whole cast of Maude
The whole
was
cast of
on.
Maude was in Fiddler on the Roof. Rosie O'Donnell played Golda, and this is funny. Okay, this is right up there with Burt Convoy. Tevye was once played.
Convoy.
Oh, sorry.
The big old
Convoy. That's right. Now I'm going to be okay.
Tevye was once played by Leonard Nimoy.
All of a sudden, I just pictured the mother in the Nutcracker with the big dress that the little things, the little children. I don't know why. I was just
All these
picturing
different
Leonard
cast
Nimoy.
members.
He's yeah. I don't know why.
I hope that was pre-Star Trek, let's say.
No, I don't think it was. I think I think it was a 90s revival.
What?
I know, but he did not have the ears or the pointy eyebrows,
Well,
I'm sure.
obviously.
Oh well, yeah, I'm sure.
Those are not
that
his
would be
real
terrible.
ears. They're not real.
Oh well.
That's the last of it.
Okay.
Back to Carolyn.
Okay. All right. So my final choice that I wanted to share with you guys for Broadway musical is The Sound of Music.
Of course.
Once again, this musical hits me hard. It's one of my probably top 5 memories as a child is the first time I saw Sound of Music. I can honestly say that. It might even be the top.
Oh, wow.
Okay, because we saw it at the movie theater. So Sound of Music was re-released in 1973. Okay.
Oh, you just Husker-Du'd me. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Yes. The Broadway original, it debuted on Broadway in 1959. The movie that we have come to know and love was made in 1960. Was made in 1965, which my parents actually saw when I was in my mommy's stomach because I was born in 1965. Yeah, we saw it in 1973 at the Sharpstown movie theater. My dad went. My whole family went to the movies. Like, you guys have to know, this is a huge, huge deal. Prior to this movie, my only experience at a movie theater would have been to see a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
A cartoon.
So, yeah. So, like, Dad is doing something with us on a weekend. And so that, in and of itself, was so special. And then, like, the intermission and getting candy and just being together. But then, of course, oh my gosh, this movie, like, you leave there thinking, this isn't a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Like, my whole mind shifted on what a movie was, what could happen on that screen. Because that's another film that was filmed in that widescreen way. It just doesn't translate on TV. It's still wonderful. The songs are still wonderful, but you've got to see that wedding
You
scene
have to.
You
on
do.
a giant screen.
And you have to see the whole Joe Adair sequence on the whole dance sequence, that like 8-minute,
Yes.
montage of them
Yes.
in all the places. You have to see that big. It has to be big.
Yeah, it really does. So you can only imagine, you guys, how excited I was as we were going home, because you know what? I remember the Sound of Music album. We had it. I remember seeing it in that, pile of albums. I'd never really listened to the Sound of Music one, and I don't remember my parents really listening. So all I wanted to do was get home and get that Sound of Music album out. So I'd like us to take a moment of silence, because you can only imagine the depth of my disappointment when I pulled that album out and it wasn't Julie Andrews on the cover.
I feel your pain.
And those kids were definitely not the ones who had just sung to me So Long Farewell. What was this blasphemy? Like, what is this? I was legit heartbroken and a little pissed off, I gotta say.
Yeah.
I remember being angry. And I asked my mom, like, what the hell is this? Meanwhile, I'm like, 7? But, I had what the hell is this, Mom? And that's when she explains, oh, this is the original Broadway soundtrack. This is, Sound of Music was on Broadway first. And that's Mary Martin. And Mary Martin, she's wonderful, Caroline. She was Peter Pan. And then my mind is going, well, she's a woman. How was she Peter Pan? Going through all of that stuff. She was Annie Oakley. And then my mom said, and she was Nellie Forbush in my absolute all-time favorite musical, South Pacific. Long story short, I was heartbroken. And then, not only that, but there weren't the same songs. Most of them were the same. But they did not have I Have Confidence. Remember? I have confidence.
I love it so much, yeah.
I'm crying. Yeah.
I know. And Something Good. And those were not in the Broadway
Oh, and they're two of the
production.
best. They're two of the best.
I know. So it just seemed, and I told my mom this morning when we were talking about this, I was like, Mom, this just goes right in there with, I wanted, the Izod shirt with the alligator, but I got the one with the fox or whatever. Like, I just was so close, but not quite
It's
there.
not what I want. It's the J.C. Penney version.
I
And people
know.
are screaming right now because they're like, no, the Mary Martin album is amazing. And yes, my
Yeah,
mom
I'm sure
also
it
thought
is.
Mary Martin was so amazing. She loved Mary Martin. I was like, what is this shit? We're not saying it's shit. We're just saying we were
not.
disappointed.
We
You know
were
how,
disappointed.
Like, you think
Yeah.
it's going to be something
Yes.
like, maybe you're like, this is going to be the best piece of lemon cake I ever had. And then you take it and it's chocolate.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
But
And
you
you're like,
want a
"What?"
lemon.
You think
Yes.
it's lemon poppy seed and
Yes.
it's almond poppy
Yes.
seed.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? That was my first movie, and I was only 3 or 4. But I don't
It
have
was
memories
probably
of
the
it really.
1973
It was the
release.
re-release.
Yeah, it was. And I would say of all the musicals that my sister and I acted out and played, because we lived in so many places, we had to be each other's playmate a lot of times. And we had this big farmhouse in Oregon that we lived in for like a hot 4 months or something. And it had a big staircase and a big wraparound porch. And we would do the we did the do, re, mi, and we would jump down the stairs and jump back up the stairs. And then we did the So Long Farewell on that. And we'd play Sound of Music out we had a swing set that was out in a cornfield. And so we would play it out there all the time too. So I only grew up, and I still have my original soundtrack that was probably my mom's. I'm going to have to say, I don't remember the Mary Martin musical soundtrack until my daughter was in a performance of in the Sound of Music in high school. And I went to see it. So excited. She was a nun. I was so excited to go see it. And I was like, what the hell is happening on stage right now? Because I had never seen it on stage.
Right.
And so I feel your pain as a child, because I was feeling it, like
yes.
10 years ago. It was more than 10 years ago, but I was like, what are they singing? What's happening on stage? Also, the story's a tiny bit tweaked, and
Right.
not the same.
Yes.
And I just
So
think about
that's-
how when she sings, I must have done some. She says like good. She says good.
Yes, she does. Yeah.
And it's just so comforting. I would not want to miss that.
That whole movie. And I've got to say, all 3 of the musicals that I talked about today, one of the themes that ran through all 3 of them is my parents were so excited to share these with us.
Totally.
Like that
Yes.
was something that I just distinctly remember. Like, they're watching me watching this.
Yeah.
Like, they want to share this with me because they had loved it so much.
You did not
And-
ask to
Yes.
go to the Sound of Music.
No.
And that was me too. Now I know that is definitely when I saw it for the first time, and I went with my mom, and I'm pretty sure we went home at intermission, and she told me that was the end. So then when I saw it on TV, I'm like, what's happening right now? We're going over the mountains?
It ended at intermission.
Linda, get Linda on the phone. This is also becoming a
cruel.
theme. I'm not appreciating this,
She's
Linda.
like, wasn't that a good movie? I mean, I was 5, so she was
Yeah,
probably
true.
like, she'll fall
Right.
asleep. We've got to go home for nap time. And in my memory, it ended at the wedding. That can't be right. That's not the
Yeah,
halfway
that's what-
point, but maybe it did.
That is when intermission
I think that's
is.
intermission.
It's
Oh,
at-
Well, there
right
you
at
go.
the
I
end of
thought
the
they got
wedding.
married and everything was great.
And that worked.
Yes.
Not the theme of really of the whole movie, but that it works for
You're missing the
Yeah.
point, but it was a great ending. It felt like an ending.
You walk
Yes.
up the aisle to a song about how irresponsible you are. Every girl's dream, right?
My
What a
mom.
flibberty gibbet you are.
So my parents got married in 1965, and my mom wanted to walk down the aisle to that song, and they're like, "No, that doesn't make sense."
You're a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
All right. Well, Leapin' Lizards, my love for this next musical and soundtrack was off the charts. So, of course, we're talking about Annie. And my love for the soundtrack began in about 1980 when my mom took me to Seattle, and my sister, I'm sure, to see the touring production. And it was life-changing for me in a way. Because, of course, little Michelle, who spent her entire childhood acting out musicals in front of her, mirror by herself. Also, let's not forget how much I moved around, right?
Yes, right.
These musicals and being these characters was a constant for me, and it was kind of like my friend. And it was a thing I could do no matter where I lived, right? I had this music and I had these characters. But I was desperate to become one of the orphans. I wanted to dance around with a mop bucket. I didn't need to be Annie. I just wanted to be an orphan. And so then is when I immediately got the 1977 Broadway musical soundtrack. I don't remember having it before then. But Andrea McArdle, she was my idol after that. And in 6th and 7th grade, I had a group of friends, and all of us were convinced that we were all going to be the new Annie, or at least an orphan. And we spent hours and hours rehearsing the exact Annie way to spit out, bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow,
That's how we learned about bottom dollar.
And we planned our auditions, what we were going to wear. And I will never forget how jealous I was of Amy Cornett and Nikki McGinnis because they sounded exactly perfect and like her. And we were like, what? And it was like the buzz between, like, have you heard Amy Cornett or Nikki McGinnis sing like Annie? Fun fact about that album, and I know you guys, I know everybody listening to, everybody can say they sang along to that album.
Oh, yeah.
Forever. Fun fact, Andrea McArdle, she only performed for 40 performances, but she was originally cast as Pepper until one of the preview performances they were in at the Goodspeed Opera House Theater in Connecticut. It's where they preview a lot of Broadway shows. They were in one of their previews. I mean, so we're talking weeks before this is going to open. Wow. And they decided that the Annie they had cast was too sweet. And Annie needed to have more like street smarts. And so Andrea McArdle was Pepper. So she gets moved to Annie. And the poor girl who's thinking up until she just became her understudy.
Can you imagine being that little girl?
And then as we know, then very shortly after that, Sarah Jessica Parker was a very famous Annie. Allison Smith. Do you guys remember who Allison Smith is?
No.
What big sitcom she was a part of?
Allison Smith.
So Jenny was Kids. And yes.
I want to know how we were so invested. Was this on TV? Like,
the movie came out in what, 1980? Did the movie come out?
No, it's that's a good question. I just watched Andrea McArdle. I just watched, and I'll put this in the Weekly Reader this week, listeners. Andrea McArdle was on Merv Griffin.
There we go.
Daring. Yes. And so he introduces her and he says she's starring in the new, the new Broadway show Annie. And she comes out and they come out, with the microphone with the big cord that's going like backstage. So she has to like flop the cord around. Oh. And she sings Tomorrow and she's pitch perfect. She's so cute.
And she's a kid, so we're all paying attention.
She was like 14.
And I'm sure that was
she was like
one of the productions in like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I'm sure it was a hard knock life.
And then the movie with
level,
Aileen. Well, now I'm going to forget. You know the movie.
And
Aileen Quinn. And so that movie then came out very shortly after. And then, of course, we were obsessed with that soundtrack and movie. I was always like I didn't like that movie because of the whole Punjab and he has to rescue her with a helicopter from like the bridge when she's being kidnapped by Lillian Brewster. And that's not in the musical.
So I have my playbill from when I saw the musical production, which was the first musical I ever saw. That was probably my first live, like real Broadway show where you got a playbill. And that was June 12th, 1980. And I know that my sister and I were obsessed with it from then on.
Yep.
So there was something different, or maybe it wasn't different. Maybe there hadn't been a Broadway musical kind of aimed at children.
It's the kid factor. It is 100% the kid factor.
But, I mean, I think we can ask so many of our listeners, and we all have Annie memories, and mine and my sister. I mean, she had the bucket, she had the whole thing. It
was aimed right at us. And it's like Tomorrow became an anthem for Gen Xers.
Yes.
I mean, it is the anthem of anthems, and it was for children. Like here was a child who was carrying a Broadway musical. And it was, I don't necessarily know that it was like, we could do that too, or kids are people too. I don't know, but it just made us invest hard, really hard. remember, per Tomorrow being the anthem for every 12-year-old on the planet at the time. I remember being on my swing set and swinging and singing the song Tomorrow as if I were performing it on a stage, as if I were Andrea McArdle. And I remember really focusing on projecting.
Oh, yes.
And I was really trying to get a little vibrato going. And I lived in a suburb, one of those suburban neighborhoods where the backyards, there's not a tree in sight, and your backyard just opens up into everybody's backyard. So essentially, I was giving a performance of Tomorrow, but you're so in your own head when you're that age. You don't have any notion that people are watching you do this I'm going to say the word earnest alert, this very earnest performance on the swing set of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I
just remember
that.
I just remember us with the bet your bottom dollar that
your bottom dollar.
tomorrow
I would bet my bottom
and
dollar.
you gotta go, there'll be sun.
I know, that was hard. It was hard.
I would say that I would bet my bottom dollar that most of our listeners, or a good chunk of them, have a distinct Annie memory. I know
agree.
my
Yes.
sister does, and my memory is almost her memory, because she, talk about earnest, I mean, she was all into that Hard Knock Life and she would slam stuff down, and she was so excited that we actually had a bucket that she could use, and she will tell that story over and over. And I think, and you have your swing story, we have these distinct memories associated with it. And again, not everybody saw the Broadway
No.
production or a touring production.
It kind of didn't matter because it was part of the zeitgeist. So if you saw,
it was part of the zeitgeist.
if you saw
exactly.
Andrea McArdle on Mike Douglas, or if you
we
saw,
all knew who she was.
We all knew who she was. She was on Broadway. She was not in the movie, but we knew Andrea McArdle. You probably saw a performance of Hard Knock Life with all of those orphans on
Yeah,
Johnny
it was so
Carson.
exciting.
My favorite musical in my parents' record collection, by far, in an exponential sense, is one of the most iconic shows of the 1970s. One of the most 70s of all of the shows of the 70s. Not quite as 70s as Superstar, but it's very, very 70s. It's body and body positive and inclusive and diverse and gay and thinky and introspective and norm busting and ultimately triumphant. It was everything that the 70s tried to be. I am talking, of course, about the record-breaking run of A Chorus Line. It was my everything.
Oh, so good.
It was my everything. It won 9 Tonys, a Pulitzer, and it's still one of the longest running shows in Broadway history. It was the longest running at the time in the 70s until it got surpassed by Cats. Anyway, so A Chorus Line is a 1975 musical created by choreographer Michael Bennett and composer Marvin Hamlish, and the only set is the bare stage of a Broadway theater, and the only costumes are the various leggings and leotards that you would actually wear in a dance class. And the story focuses on the 17 dancers auditioning for the spots in the chorus line of a Broadway show, not the lead roles, just the chorus. So it's a show that pulls back the curtain on what leads up to all of the shows that we've been enjoying for our whole lives. It's like they're taking us backstage and letting us see the real people before they put on all the stage makeup and the costumes. It was an unprecedented box office and critical hit. It was beloved by both audiences and critics alike. And its original run broke all kinds of records, becoming the longest running show in Broadway history until it was surpassed by Cats in 1997. So when you put the needle down on this record, I immediately get a lump in my throat. And it stays there for every song. I can't even really sing along to this record because of the big lump in my throat. And sometimes full on tears. When I was preparing for this episode, I was listening to the cast recording when I was out for a walk, and I was really trying to stop crying, because you can't just cry openly on a dog walk, because people will worry and they'll stop and they will ask if you need help. And you have to be a good community member. Don't do that to the people. But it was hard. I'm trying to wipe my eyes, looking like I have something in my eye. I got a gnat in my eye. And I've never been through an audition like this before, but for some reason this show is profoundly personal for me, and the music is imprinted on me since its inception in 1975. So the whole theme of the show is made apparent in the opening number called I Hope I Get It, or God, I Hope I Get It, or
God, I
Please
hope I
God,
get
I
it.
need this job. And it opens with the directions from the choreographer going, step, kick, kick, leap, kick, touch. Again, step, kick, kick, leap, kick, touch. Again, he's just barking orders, barking, barking, barking. And on stage, it's a dance sequence that is disguised as a real-life audition, with the choreographer shouting directions and people bumping into each other and making mistakes. And it builds in intensity, both because of the music and the pace of the choreography, but also because there's this underlying tension in the lyrics. Each of those dancers is saying, God, I hope I get it. I hope I get it. And I really need this job. I really, really need this job. It's a brilliant layering of story and music and dance and meaning, and it just cracks your heart right open. It's just like
Especially
what you were talking about, Carolyn, about this is the reason that musical theater exists, because it can say these serious things using music and dance.
Especially when it's so frenzy and, you know, the different groups dancing are coming and going and he's kicking people out and whatever. And then there'll just be a spotlight and then just one of them will just so earnestly sing,
Yes.
Oh, God, I need this job. Please, God, I need this job. And
I've got to
I've
get
this
this
job. And you see them and you realize it's just so humanizing.
So humanizing.
Yeah.
I'm getting chills as you talk about it like that.
Also, like you just set it up for people who aren't familiar with this musical, set it up really well about, and the entire thing is this audition process. And I remember being a very small child going to see this musical on stage. You know, as a very small child, I'm running around singing tits and ass, you know, after too. And thank you again to my mom for exposing us to theater and not being like, oh, she can't go see that because it says tits and ass. But it was so cleverly done because how the producer or the director is sitting in the audience with
behind
the people.
you. You're in the audience, but the voice is coming from behind you.
And so that I think because you get transported into that audition room or it's an audition theater, that's another way they make it very humanizing.
It's
this show,
so incredibly humanizing.
You feel like you're part of it. Unlike maybe in an Oklahoma or an Annie or something where you're watching something, you are watching it, but you're very much a part of it because there's guys shouting out orders behind you. So you're part of it. And so that's a reason
it's incredibly
I love
intense.
this musical.
And just like Michelle, my parents took my brother and me to see the stage production. It was a touring production when I was in 5th grade and my brother was in 2nd grade, which that was a big deal back then. Like you dressed up to go to the theater. And we were way too young. So much of it went right over my head. Like, what is gonorrhea? I have no idea. I have no idea.
You didn't have to know.
But that's
really?
right. You didn't have to know.
no.
And that doesn't mean that I didn't love every single second of it. But I knew sitting there, I knew this was too adult for me, and there were no other kids in the audience at all, and my parents were unapologetic about that. Absolutely.
Good for them.
And at times it was embarrassing for me because I did know what they were talking about sometimes in the song Hello 12, Hello 13, Hello Love, which is basically an ode to puberty, which I did not want to talk about at all. But also the iconic song that we all thought was called Tits and Ass, but it's actually called Dance 10 Looks 3. It's the song everyone was waiting for because it's so brazen. It's so brazen. And you're just sitting there as a child going, oh my God, am I going to get in trouble for listening to the song called Tits and Ass? But it's not called Tits and Ass.
Yeah.
It's about a woman who wasn't getting hired for any job. So one day she steals her dance card and sees that for dance, she got a 10. She was scored a 10. And for looks, she was scored a 3. So she decides to take matters into her own hands. And in her own words, she left the theater and called the doctor for her appointment to buy tits and ass. Got myself a fancy pair. Tightened up the derriere. Did the nose with it. All that goes with it. It's so... Yeah, it was just so... I didn't know if I was supposed to laugh. I didn't know if it was okay for me to think that this was funny. And my parents had the album, so they knew exactly what was coming. Tits and ass, gonorrhea, erections, making out in the back seat with some hottie and realizing you don't want to do anything more, because you're gay. And it's all in the songs. But it must have been important enough to my parents for us to have the experience of this cultural moment that they simply didn't worry about it.
Yeah.
And
I do think, like Carolyn said, a lot of it goes over a child's head.
Very much,
But
yeah.
what you're getting exposed to is so much more important than
Yes.
anything that they could fear, I think.
Right.
I have, I mean, to this day, it's an indelible memory. Like I'm getting choked up right now just thinking about the experience of it, and what that album has meant to me for the last 50 years. It's really, really powerful. And I think the thing that is universally known about a chorus line, whether you've seen it or not, is the ending of the show with the song One. It's that iconic chorus line moment when the dancers who have won a place in the chorus are revealed as they come out on stage in costume now, one by one. The dancewear is gone. They've got the gold lapels, the gold top hats, and they get into formation, and they end with that classic chorus line, kick line that just brings people to their feet. Brings people to their feet.
Got goosebumps.
But and can you remember, like, each time a person would be revealed, you'd be like, she made it!
Yes.
She made it! But it's very
husband and the wife,
bittersweet because you're so excited with each reveal, but you're also sad because you know the other people who aren't on the stage did not make it. They didn't make it.
After bearing their
Everything.
souls.
They bared their souls. And that song has a double meaning because the song is about a woman who was one singular sensation every little step she takes. One smile and suddenly nobody else will do. But it's also about the opposite. The people in the chorus are now one. They perform as one. They are not chosen to stand out from one another. They are one entity, not individuals of singular talent. They were not chosen because they stood out. They were chosen because they blended in. They perform as a single machine, which is both thrilling and sad. And such is the life of a dancer in the chorus line. That's what your job is. So you can hear in the music, in this song, you can hear when they start the kick line, and when they do, this is the end of the show. Once they start kicking, bum, bum, like they just start kicking, and they kick, and they kick, and they kick, and people scream and cheer and scream and cheer, and they don't stop kicking.
Yes.
It's like, so everybody listening, this is your permission slip, signed by your PCPS parents, to cue up your favorite musical, to cue up your favorite musical for your next dog walk. Even if you're crying, that's okay. Just tell them you're listening to The Sound of Music and they'll get it. They'll be like, oh, sorry, keep going. Sometimes we forget about the things that used to bring us joy, and we are here to remind you. You're welcome. Thank you for listening today, and we will see you next time.
And we'd like to give a special thank you to some of our supporters on Patreon. I'm going to sing their names. Are you guys ready? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not.
Impressed.
Today we're giving a special shout out to these patrons: Elizabeth, Cynthia, Nancy, Aaron, Marcia, Michelle, Dana, Mary, Daisy, Mary Beth, Kim, Lisa, and Joanna. Thanks so much for supporting us over on Patreon. You guys are the reason this whole thing keeps on trucking.
And don't forget to leave Pop Culture Preservation Society podcast a review on whatever platform you listen. We know you love us, so show that love to others by giving us a nice review.
It helps.
And telling other people about us.
It does. It totally helps. In the meantime, let's raise our glasses for a toast, courtesy of the Cast of Three's Company. 2 good times.
2 happy days.
2 Little House on the Prairie. No, that sounds stupid.
I like
totally
it.
got
Little House
it.
on the Prairie.